Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. My name is Ross Benjamin. It's Thursday, November the 10th. And like every Thursday, I'm joined for the NFL segment, betting segment that is, by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Doug, another week of football coming up. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, well, hey, we're into the second half of the regular season now, and so there's some observations, can be made and whatever about the first half, and everybody's got their feelings. But hey, this is the time for both the teams and for handicappers to make a push to go strong to the end of the year. So looking to try and do that, Ross.
Yeah, so my Buffalo Bills get beat by the Jets last week. Credit to the Jets. They played a fine game. Josh Allen hurts his elbow. All kinds of speculation out there. I know one thing, for sure. If the sports books would not leave themselves as vulnerable as they would by moving that line from 7.5 or 7 to 3.5. That tells me without a cast of doubt that he's not going to play on Sunday. Because otherwise, if they make a last minute arrangement and he's going to play they decide this on Sunday morning, that line's got to come back, and then they leave themselves up to open the middles and whatever have you. So those are little things like that you could pick up on as a sports bettor, especially if you're just new to this. Line movements like that aren't necessarily money related or money generated. It's you have to look inside and see, is there weather conditions that prompted this move? Is there injuries? If you have a quick thought on that, Doug, jump in.
I do actually, and I'll say it this way: I don't think that I think they're hedging their bets, and what I mean by that, I think in terms of it's always an interesting topic as what is a player worth in terms of a point spread.
Yes.
The quarterback is probably the easiest one of any sport to look at. Okay. And so to me, Josh Allen probably is worth 6 points to the Buffalo Bills. That would be, if I had to have an estimate or guesstimate, that would be it. So I think what they're doing is they're taking
The middle.
the middle of it, because if they go to, for example, even to 2.5, okay, well, now they expose the 3. And so, you mentioned middles. Well, that just opens up a whole can of worms, to go through 6 and 3 at the same time. So down to 3.5 gives them some leeway to go lower. And then if they need to go back up, then they can. And, the damage likely would be less because.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. I could buy into that. I never thought of it from that angle. I will say that, situations like this I steer clear of. Not because it's my favorite team since childhood involved, and I don't want to get involved in a game in a betting scenario where my heart might get involved. But I mean, objectively, if that wasn't the case, that's certainly the way I would look at it. And you certainly make sense. I mean, you're going from Josh Allen to Case Keenum. Now, is Case Keenum a decent backup quarterback? Well, he's won in this league, but look, Josh Allen's your leading rusher, leading passer, and your franchise quarterback. There's going to be a drop-off. I don't care how Case Keenum fared in the past. In this modern day of NFL football, a mobile quarterback with a gun for an arm, I agree, Doug. He's worth almost a touchdown, even though there's a lot worse backups in the league than Case Keenum. And the other thing, and I'm going to end the discussion with this. If you want to jump in, that's fine. His last throw of the game against the Jets on Sunday, a desperation throw on 4th and 23. He threw the ball rolling to his left. His elbow had already been sprained, or whatever the damage is at this particular moment in time, or has been determined to be. And he threw the ball 69.6 yards in the air, rolling to his left, having to turn square up. That was the longest pass thrown in the NFL since 2014. So, and he put it right on the numbers. I mean, it was tight coverage. Sauce Gardner had tight coverage, but if you look at the replay, he didn't get a finger on it. And the ball hit Gabe Davis in the middle of the numbers. So I would say that's an encouraging sign in terms of it not being a long-term issue. But it goes to show you, Doug, like in baseball, which I know you're a big baseball fan, guys who throw 100 miles an hour, the torque they have on the exhibit with their arm to throw that hard. It's a combination of all your mechanics, but at the end of the day, your elbow and your arm take up the majority of torque that you provide to get up to that speed. Well, I mean, the play he got hurt on, this is a guy who throws 100-mile-an-hour fastballs in football. And he got his arm hit as he threw. And I could only imagine with that kind of torque and his arm being jousted in the other way, that was scary.
Oh, it has to be, because I don't know if I've ever brought this up to you or to anybody here. One thing, a couple of years ago when in baseball, when they started talking about, everybody throwing 100 miles an hour, a doctor went out and did a test, or a group of doctors. And what they found is now this was the average person. Okay, this is not a baseball player who's worked to build up his strength and everything else. But the average person, they will blow out the nerve in the elbow at 95 miles an hour. Okay,
wow.
It just pops.
Yeah.
Okay? So that just kind of tells you. So basically, now the training and everything else is completely different, obviously, to become a pitcher. But I mean, they're playing with it, and that's why with these Tommy Johns, they can have it, the recuperate, come right back to normal. If they get two of them, that's usually a bit more of a problem. But same thing. I mean, Josh Allen's a fantastic talent.
Yeah. Especially when he depends on his arm strength as much as he does. I lost Doug for a second here. He froze up. Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes we have these difficulties. We're recording on Zoom. Are you there, Doug?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
yes.
I lost you for a bit. You froze up on us. So if you heard me talking and thought I was talking over you, that's why.
Okay,
But to finish your thought on normal people at 95 miles an hour blowing out their elbow.
All I'm saying is that, Allen's a fantastic talent. Let's hope that, everything goes along okay. And to me, it almost kind of makes sense not to play him this week. And among the other reasons is I don't think you want to risk him running the ball.
No.
Okay. You don't want to put that elbow where anybody can go have a shot at it. Why risk it? So to me, you don't want to lose a game. Okay. But by the same token, you are home, and other guys have to step up. And if you win 21-20, that's nothing to do with the point spread. You won the game.
Yeah, exactly. And boy, oh boy, Minnesota's got some great offensive talent in their own right at the skill positions with Dalvin Cook at running back, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. They just picked up in a trade at the deadline, TJ Hawkinson. So this is a team that could scare a lot of people offensively, but we both know, Doug, their major flaw is on the defensive side of the ball. Look, before we get to our free picks, we have 2 free picks today. Doug will have a free pick in the Miami Dolphins and Cleveland Browns game. I will in the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys game. Folks, if you've been tuning in this channel, you're well aware of this. If you're new, let me bring you up to speed, because you can go through the archives and everything I'm telling you could be proven by watching past videos. The last 4 weeks, we've gone 27-13 with our free picks on this channel. That's all the handicappers combined. That's 68%. We give out 10 picks a week. We do 1 every day, 2 a day. And of course, I'm on 5 days a week. So I take up 20 of those 40 picks. I went 14-6. But you know what? The other handicappers are 13-7. So not much of a difference there. That's consistency, folks. Where I'm going with this, not to put a gold star on my forehead or on Doug's forehead. Doug's got a lot of gold stars on his forehead. See, if you look, you can see the imprint right there. Anyway, all kidding aside, if you have not subscribed to our channel, it's absolutely free to do so. And when you subscribe, also hit the notification bell, and you'll be alerted immediately upon any of our Winner's Circle sports betting podcast being published on this channel. So again, folks, you see an OSGA icon right in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Just hover over that and a subscribe button will come up. Hit subscribe, and in your YouTube settings, hit your notification bell. All right, Doug, look, before we get to those free picks again, we're at the halfway point. It's good a time as any. Let's each pick a team that we think right now currently is on the outside looking in terms of the playoff race? And what team on the outside looking in do you predict will get to the playoffs at the season's end?
It's a good question, Ross. Just see off the top of my head, and I looked at the standings earlier today, and the NFC doesn't seem to offer anything to me, and I guess there's two teams that look that are somewhat attractive, certainly in the AFC, and my choice just off the top would be New England. And as to why, first of all, I'm not sold on the Chargers. Okay, the Chargers, for example, are going to play San Francisco this week and Kansas City the next, both on Sunday night games. And New England is just kind of coming along. I mean, this is not the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick deal, okay? But the team's improving. The offense is improving. The defense is improving. I like what they have to offer. And, I mean, in this case, I'm not betting against Bill Belichick, okay, from that standpoint. So to me, if there's a team that's going to be able to sneak in and get in, I like them. It's not that I don't like Cincinnati. It's just that I actually just prefer New England more.
Yeah, and a question for you. Is it possible for the first time we're going to see 4 teams in the same division qualify for the playoffs now that they've added last year, they added a 7th team to each conference to qualify for the postseason? Where I'm going with this, with your New England pick, is if you like New England to be in there, what's your thoughts on Miami and what's your thoughts on the Jets? Because I know what your thoughts are on the Bills as long as they're healthy. Right. Do you think the Jets in Miami are playoff teams as well?
I think Miami is. I mean, the Jets should be by record, but we're only 9 games in, Ross.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, I mean, it's clear by the components that they have. This is a team on the rise. Maybe they do get to the playoffs. I'm just not sure it's going to be this year. So if I'm going to drop one team out from the division, so to answer your question, I don't think that all 4 teams will get in. I think 3 of them will. Maybe it won't be New England, but if I'm picking New England, I'm going to dump the Jets out.
Yeah, in a division, it's highly competitive right now. Everybody thought Buffalo was going to run away with it. You got 4 teams with a winning record in that division. Something's got to give. And ironically enough, Buffalo at 6-2, they're only 2 losses in the AFC East against Miami and the Jets. They're 0-2 in their division, 6-0 against everybody else. Go figure. And well, my pick, by the way, you mentioned Cincinnati. That is my pick. I think the Bengals have shown signs of the team that they were a season ago. They revamped their offensive line at the beginning of the year because Joe Burrow, quite frankly, was getting killed last year. Even though they made it to the Super Bowl, I believe they were either first or second in sacks allowed last year. Now, that offensive line started out slow this year, took time to gel, and then they encountered some injuries. Now they're healthy, and we saw how their offense has really picked it up over the last couple weeks or so. And I don't know if they'll overtake Baltimore for the division. It wouldn't shock me if they did, but I think that they will be a playoff team at the year's end. I just don't think that they're going to make the kind of magical run they did last season, but you just never know. I just don't think their defense is good enough. That's my opinion. I think their offensive line will hold up, and I think they have all the components offensively that will be enough to get him into the postseason, Doug. So anyway, let's get to our free picks. Let's start with you. The Miami Dolphins host the Cleveland Browns. Right now, Miami is down to a 3.5-point favorite in this contest, and the total is 43.5. I say down to 3.5 because I believe it opened at 4.5. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Doug. Take it away, my friend.
That's exactly correct, Ross. And and a part of the reason is, despite their 6-3 record, Miami isn't impressing people because against the spread, they've only covered the spread once in their last 6 outings. Now, this offense is dynamic. I mean, what a great game plan that they came up with to improve this team. Tua ends up being a much better quarterback than most people have thought. They certainly have some defensive deficiencies. Okay, we've seen that. Even against Chicago last week, it looked pretty bad, giving up 32 points. But the one thing about winning, okay, and we see this in the NFL, and Miami might be one of those teams. The Baltimore Ravens might be one of those teams. where if you just keep winning, all of a sudden you start to gain confidence,
Yeah.
and wherever your deficiencies are, they get better. Cincinnati, perfect example last year, okay, where their defense came together to where opportunistic, forcing turnovers, etc. Now Cleveland's back to action after having a bye week, and I guess they think they should be raring to go on this one. They smashed Cincinnati 32-13 in their last contest, and for a change, the defense was in harmony. They had the pass rush. They were able to stop the run, and the secondary held them. That has not been the case a good portion of the season. And lo and behold, Ross, they're known as a running team, but guess what? Amari Cooper's on their team. They just found that out, okay? And they started throwing the ball to him. And guess what? Good things happened for them when they started doing that. So I'm looking at this game. Cleveland, is off a super game against their in-state rivals, off a bye, but are they reliable? Okay, this is a team that's 3-5, that's averaging better than 2 turnovers per game in their last 5 outings. Now, Miami isn't a great team about generating turnovers, but being at home, I would think that would certainly be a possibility because Jacoby Brissett, good player, okay, not a great player, does make mistakes, okay. Minnesota. The Miami comes into this one 8-1 at home versus teams that give up a completion percentage of 61% or higher, and the Browns are 12-25 after a win by 14 or more points. Ross, I'm going to go swimming with the Dolphins. Give the 3.5 on this one. So give me the Miami Dolphins to get the job done against Cleveland on Sunday.
Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. He likes the Miami Dolphins -3.5 over the Cleveland Browns. Folks, I can't comment on this game. Why? Because I already posted it as a 10-star top play. It's my game of the week, and I can't do that. So I'm not going to comment any further and lead you on. If you want it, buy it. If not, you go with Doug's play, whatever your preference is, folks. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at the Green Bay Packers, and they're going to be hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Here's the way I look at this game. I'll come right out and say it, and I know this is going to surprise Doug. I think Dallas is the sucker play of the week. I really do. First of all, they're -5. And, before all this came out in the last couple of weeks about the 5 and 5.5s in the NFL and how it's, what do they call it? A devil's line for the favorite. I knew this 30 years ago. An old wise man back in the old neighborhood that used to book bets said, son, if you could look for a reason to find, and a good reason you find for using an underdog in the NFL or 5 or 5.5, you should do so. It's the best number to take. Well, boy, oh boy, does he look prophetic, especially what we've seen over the last few weeks. Look, NFL home underdogs of 5 or 5.5, not coming off a bye week. Green Bay played last week, lost to Detroit, not to rub it in, Doug. And their win percentage is 625 or less. Green Bay is at 333 right now with a 3-6 record. Those teams in that situation, home underdogs of 5 or 5.5, 15-0 against the spread since 2014. Secondly, NFL underdogs, of 5 or 5.5, regardless of being home, regardless of being away, regardless of whatever their win percentage is, regardless if they're off a bye week or not. All NFL underdogs, not home, not away. 5, 5.5, 19-5 against the spread since 2014 within that same time frame, and they won 14 of those 24 games straight up. So even if you get away from the home dog factor and you 5, 5.5, you get away from not coming off a bye week, and you get away from the 625, still an excellent win percentage. Now, Dallas coming off that 49-29 home win versus Chicago in the previous game. They're coming off a bye week to boot. No, already coming up. Well, anyway, they're coming off an impressive.
Yes.
They're coming off a bye week to boot. Okay. Green Bay goes to Detroit against the lowly Lions and loses 15-9. Now they're 3-6. They've lost 5 games in a row. They're playing against America's team. And you guessed it, everybody and their mother and sister likes Dallas. If you look at the public betting trends right now, like I did this morning, the majority, meaning 70% or better, and 70% of the money or better has gone the way of Dallas. Okay. And yet this line, which there are some 4.5s out there. So to me, that's a sure indication of wise guy money, and certainly something that comes to my attention. Let's not lose sight of the fact Green Bay's lost their last 5. Only one of those contests came at home. That was against the Jets. And that was a dismal performance. But my point being is, even with that loss, the Green Bay Packers have gone 24-3 straight up in their last 27 regular season home games. And if it's after game 6 of the season, they improved to 13-0 straight up in regular season action at home. And since 2020, Green Bay 8-2 against the spread as an underdog. Their last 5 games, if I recall correctly, I know they were favored in at least 4 of those. I want to say all 5. So again, it's not like they're losing as underdogs this year. They've been laying points all year long. Do they have issues? Absolutely. They didn't address the wide receiver situation. I don't want to beat this to death because me and Doug talked about this on Monday, but I'm going to have a little bit of kahunas here, Doug, and I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers, your team, plus the 5 against the Dallas Cowboys, and Doug likes the Miami Dolphins minus the 3.5 at home over the Cleveland Browns. Your thoughts, Doug?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, you got more courage than I do on there, but you know what? I love those numbers though on the 5s. I knew a little bit about it, but I did not know the exact numbers that you're talking about. So that's really interesting news, and I'm sure that everybody that's watching this video is going to find that interesting as well, and might even sway some opinions on that. So you think you're onto something there, Ross, from that standpoint? It just watching them, it's hard for me to look at something like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? The numbers bear it out that it's possible. So you know what? I think you got something there.
Yeah, and I don't want to say your emotions are involved because you're a pro in every sense of the word. But watching them as much as you do, and being as frustrated watching them as much as you do, and anybody else who's watched them this season, if you just base every pick on an eye test, you're going to lose a lot of money in the NFL. Okay. Right. College football might be a little different. Okay. Because there's such a disparity between the best teams and those near the bottom of the pack. But in the NFL, the old cliche, and it's an overused one, but on any given Sunday. So again, this is one I know I'm being contrarian. I'm not being spiteful. I'm being contrarian. And, you think about that number of 5, 5.5. How many games do we see in the NFL that land on 3, 4, 6, and 7? And what's in the middle of all that interrupts that cycle is 5. So anyway,
it's an odd number. And so, it's puzzling a lot of times to look at a 5 and determine which way it should be going. So I agree with you on that for sure.
So, Doug, but we don't encourage, and I know I can speak for you with this. You just don't no-brain your way into taking a plus 5 and plus 5.5. There has to be other supporting evidence that leads you to go that direction. Okay. And I gave you mine. So anyway, Doug, we're short on time here. So tell the folks how you been doing, what you got coming up. And we all know you're at DocSports.com, one of the finest handicapping sites and longest 51 years in business in the sports betting industry.
Ross, we got a lot of things going on. So looking at 10 plays this upcoming weekend,
wow.
5 in college, 5 in the NFL. From that standpoint, I got a 6-unit best bet in college football on Saturday. And then on Sunday, coming off a 3-in-1 week, I have my first 8-unit game of the year.
Wow.
In the NFL going this weekend. So that's going to be available too. So you can get the whole week package, or you can buy the individual big plays, whatever works best for you. If that's what you want to do, you want to check out and see what I got going there. College basketball started 2-0. I dabble in the college basketball to start the season. And so just kind of trying to cherry pick here and there. And that's what I do until pretty much we get into the conference part of the schedules. From that standpoint, NBA, another winner last night, had a 6-unit best bet on Indiana plus the 6. Got a little tense there for a bit, but got the job done. They lost by 3. 48-23 regular season picks since January in the
Wow.
NBA. All good stuff, Ross. So here we go, up for another huge weekend. See what we can get done across the board. Now, I know, Ross, you got some stuff going on because you already mentioned the 10-star play. So
Yeah.
let everybody know what else you got going.
That's the only NFL play I got up right now, but I will have at least 3 more plays in the NFL on Sunday. I'll have a Monday night play. I did pass on the Thursday night game. We're taping on Thursday just in case you see this today. NBA last night went 2-1. I just missed out. I had my only loser was the Bulls +2. They lose the game by 4. It happens. And but I did have Indiana just like Doug, and I also had the Boston and Detroit game to go over the total, and that sailed way over. So my NBA, as we speak, 45-32, something in that area right there, around 58%, dating back to last year. So it's a nice run as well. Haven't released anything in college basketball yet, although me and Doug joked on the phone the other day. I told him the Queens, North Carolina Royals, they're only a 4-point underdog at Marshall, and lo and behold, and I didn't know they were the Royals. I had to ask Doug.
I had to look it up.
I was going to say all the Queens men. I don't know what they were going to be called, but they call them the Royals, which is appropriate. They're located in North Carolina. It's their first year playing Division I basketball, and lo and behold, they knocked off Marshall on the road by a point. Anyway, to get beyond that, college basketball, certainly I'll be putting out a lot of plays there as well. And college football over the last 3 weeks, 11-8, not great, but you know what? I'm making money. And I'm right around a little over 500 in college football. Disappointed with my college football thus far, but plenty of time to go. And with where I am right now, very easily could end up with a stellar winning record before it's all said and done. A lot of money to be made down the stretch with me in college football. So, Doug, until Monday, I'm going to miss you, buddy. I ain't no talking to you for 3 days. Maybe we can come up with another college basketball Division I team that we don't know about exists. And as Doug says, boy, oh boy, it sounds to me like if you got an alumni with deep pockets, you could be a Division I basketball team these days. Anyway, until the next time, folks, for Doug Upstone of DocSports.com and Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com, don't forget to give us a like at the end of the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And we'll talk to you next week. Until then, good luck and God bless, folks.